Hi, it's Rebecca. Welcome to Truth or Tuesday. Today is Truth or Tuesday, and this is Inner Power Training. Today, I want to talk about a really interesting topic. Um, my mind works like this. I'm always thinking out of the box, and I've had some pretty amazing mystical experiences in my life, as I'm sure some of you have. You wouldn't be listening to them if you didn't. So like minds like to congregate, right? But let me tell you something. We live in a time which is kind of transitional, it seems. They're calling it the shift, the Great Awakening, the end of a cycle. The Kali Yuga is ending, and we're going into a different cycle now. It happens every, I think they said 250,000 years. There's other cycles that people like the Mayans have talked about, and other indigenous people have always been tuned into these things. For some reason, they know how to read the signs and know what's going on in the bigger picture. Well, I've had these experiences I've told you about before where a voice has told me things like, you're leaving New York by the end of March. Sure enough, I had to leave by the end of March. I didn't really have a choice. My landlord said, "You've got to leave," even though I hadn't heard from him and he didn't know he was going to have to tell me that. It happened. I was told to go work in Boston at the Christian Science Church by this voice. And sure enough, I went and worked there for about 6 years. Inner guidance. Now, I want to tell you another story about something that happened to me when I was traveling with my mother that was very, very interesting, that's always kind of stayed with me. And it makes me wonder if big events have already happened because I am very psychic and I can read cards. I can tell people things that are going to happen to them and help them with my spiritual understanding of how to solve problems, how to avoid pitfalls and transform negative patterns in their lives into more positive ones because we do have free will. We absolutely do. Another time I was on a layover in Osaka, Japan, and I had a dream about an airplane that was flying around and everybody was concerned and looking at it. And it was flying in a big, big circle. I came home the next day and there was United Flight 232, which had flown in a big circle because they'd lost control of the rudder. And it crashed in the cornfields in Sioux City, Iowa. And it was very much connected to that dream that I had in Osaka, Japan. Prophetic. But how do these things happen? That's the curious thing to me. I mean, that airplane hadn't taken off yet when I had the dream. And people do have prophetic dreams though all the time. And they see things, and sometimes it drives them crazy. My mother used to have dreams before someone would die, a couple of or 3 days before. She would have a dream about them transitioning, and sure enough, she'd get the phone call, and it was very upsetting to her. She didn't like being that way. She wanted to shut it off. Some people don't like being tuned in or psychic. It can be disturbing sometimes, especially if you are having premonitions of bad things. Well, let me tell you about this trip my mother and I took. We went to the country formerly known as Yugoslavia, and it was Yugoslavia at the time we went. This was in the late 80s, maybe around 1987. We went to Dubrovnik and we were staying in a hotel. Um, in the same room, sleeping in, two beds. And I woke up that first morning and I said, "Oh my God, I had the most horrible nightmare." It was a bloodbath in Belgrade. Now, I'd never even been to Belgrade. I didn't really know that much about the country. But I told my mother it was just the most horrific dream. It was like heart stopping. And she said, "I had the same kind of dream that night." We both had this horrific dream about a bloodbath in Belgrade. Well, We had a beautiful vacation there. It was an absolutely lovely, lovely place. The old medieval city of Dubrovnik was fascinating. There was art in there that was mind-boggling. The food was incredible. We went up the coast of the Adriatic Sea to a place called Sveti Stefan, which was a beautiful resort made out of rocks. The beaches were lovely. They were all stone, but very, very picturesque. There were gorgeous things to see there, and we had a lovely, lovely time. I remember I went into a nightclub one night in Dubrovnik, and it was a beautiful outdoor, indoor club, gorgeous evening. And as I walked in, the song When the Lights Are Always Out in Massachusetts was playing. I heard these words coming through and the lights are always out in Massachusetts, which was kind of like weird because I was living in Massachusetts and I thought, wow, that's kind of a synchronicity. But anyway, I had a lovely time, but that dream always haunted me. Well, a few years later, they had that awful Bosnian war and it was a bloodbath. Terrible things were happening to people. And I feel like I got a glimpse of the future. Now, that's the thing that I'm questioning. Has it already happened? Has whatever's going to happen on this planet, big time events, wars, governments, natural disasters, have they already happened somewhere, somehow in that other dimension? And when we tap into it, we can see it because, they say when you get into the higher realms, the other dimensions, above the 3D world, there is no time. That's when you get into quantum physics and glimpses of things that the mystics and the scientists are now converging on as far as understanding how things operate in the universe. It's very tricky, but it's very mind-bending and it's very fascinating. And it just makes me wonder, has it already happened? How can we influence it? I happen to know from my study of consciousness that what you put your intention on can manifest. And if you are programming yourself to be more and more and more a positive thinker, someone who's always going for the solution, you are making an impact in this three-dimensional world. You are helping to transform it from all those negative emotions that people like to conjure up about, hatred, envy, jealousy, anger. You can transform people and help them understand that they want to get rid of those negative emotions because they're poisoning them. And when we get into the higher emotions of unconditional love, peace, harmony, joy, happiness, which you can find, it's all within you, you can have an impact on the way the world works. So why not do some work on yourself to understand that you can be a co-creator?